Fatah and Hamas signed a joint statement in Beijing this week. It was a grand show of unity with the leaders of rival Palestinian factions standing beside China's Foreign Minister Wang Yi. This was for a photo opportunity at the Great Hall of the People in Beijing. Mousa Abu Marzouk, a senior Hamas official, declared this as a historic moment. On the other side, Mahmoud al-Aloul, who's the deputy leader of Fatah, showered praises on China for brokering the deal. China managed to get the warring factions of Hamas and Fatah on the same page. They even got them to sign a joint statement. That statement supports the formation of a temporary government for Gaza and the Israeli-occupied West Bank. This comes on the back of China's mediatory role in the historic deal between Iran and Saudi Arabia earlier this year. China is also now engaging Ukraine, a country which is calling on Beijing to mediate with Russia, its all-weather friend and ally, to put an end to this 2-year-long war. On Crux Decode, why does China want to play global peacemaker? How does this contrast with the fractious relationship that one sees between the other big global superpower, which is America, and other countries around the world? Can China be successful where America has failed in bringing the two ongoing wars to an end and find an elusive ceasefire? Hamas and Fatah have been deeply divided for years now, each trying to present itself as the legitimate leader of the Palestinian people. They are also wary that the other side will undermine their power. In 2007, both parties had engaged in a civil war, after which Hamas forcibly took over Gaza from Fatah and the Fatah-dominated Palestinian Authority. The PA controls parts of the Israeli-occupied West Bank. Multiple attempts in the past to broker unity between the two rival parties have resulted in joint statements and agreements, but all of those efforts on the ground have failed to yield any result. The joint statement this week, which was also signed by other smaller Palestinian factions, said that the new government should begin working on uniting all Palestinian institutions, both in the West Bank and in Gaza, reconstructing Gaza after this war, and preparing for national elections. But it does not lay out a clear timeline for when those elections need to be held. Palestinian experts have said that cooperation between Hamas and Fatah was critical to discussions about a post-war future in Gaza. If they can form a government of independent figures without any formal ties to Hamas, it could also make it much easier for the Western world to participate in rebuilding Gaza. The United States, Britain, France, other nations consider Hamas as a terrorist group. The statement does not address a key sticking point, which is who has security control over Gaza. Fatah has said that all weapons with Hamas, or any other organization for that matter, have to come under the authority of one unified security force. Hamas has said it will not dismantle its military wing, the Qassam Brigades. According to reports, Palestinians on the street are very angry and disappointed that these talks have been ongoing for 17 years now. The general Palestinian public wants results. They do not want just paperwork. They want practical steps in the right direction. In Washington, the State Department spokesman Matthew Miller said that the United States was against Hamas playing any role in post-war Gaza. He said that the White House still wanted to see the Palestinian Authority governing a unified Gaza and a unified West Bank without any Hamas in the picture.
But as we have made clear for months, Hamas is a terrorist organization, something that we obviously made clear before October 7th. But when it comes to governance of Gaza at the end of the conflict, there can't be a role for a terrorist organization. Hamas has long been a terrorist organization. They have the blood of innocent civilians, both Israeli and Palestinian, on their hands. And so when you look at the post-conflict governance of Gaza, we do see, as we have made clear, we want to see the Palestinian Authority governing a unified Gaza and the West Bank, but no, we do not support a role for Hamas.
For China, bringing Hamas and Fatah together represented an opportunity to promote its image as a peace broker and an important player in the Middle East. The declaration followed Beijing's success in negotiating a deal between Saudi Arabia and Iran last year. It also comes as China has deepened its financial ties in the region, investing in areas like technology, artificial intelligence. The Saudi-Iran deal, though, was seen as a game changer when it happened, but precious little has changed on the ground by way of substance since the agreement was signed. Also, there's been a new government in Iran under a new reformist president, which may view the deal differently from the previous regime. But one thing is clear. China is making a concerted attempt to come across as the big global power, which is able to mediate through difficult crises around the world. The images of China as a key international peace broker is with one eye on an international audience. It wants to draw a sharp contrast with the only other global superpower, which is the United States. It's been clear since the start of the Russia-Ukraine war, and increasingly more so since the Israel-Hamas war, that Washington is losing its leverage to shape quick outcomes or ceasefires in either of these wars. America has not been able to force Russia to the dialogue table after it suffered early reverses. No matter how much aid and how much weapons America provides Ukraine with, the war has been stuck in a stalemate, and it is very clear that any solution to this war will have to result in Ukraine giving up some of its territory. Similarly, in the Israel-Hamas war, the Biden administration has been struggling to get Israel to agree for a quick ceasefire. Instead, it's been receiving immense flack for letting its ally, Netanyahu, get away with indiscriminate killing of civilians. It is clear that China is not averse to playing on multiple fronts at the same time, even though the substantive results of such efforts may still be under question. The optics of it are not. Again, just this past week, Ukraine's top diplomat met with China's foreign minister and had talks which signaled Kiev's increased willingness to pursue a diplomatic solution to the war with Russia. They want China to play a more central role in that effort. This is what Dmitry Kuleba, the Ukrainian foreign minister, said. "I'm convinced that a just peace in Ukraine is in China's strategic interests." He also went on to say, after a meeting with Wang Yi, the Chinese foreign minister, in the southern Chinese city of Guangzhou, that China's role as a global force for peace is good and it is important. Kuleba is visiting China for the very first time since Russia's invasion of Ukraine back in February of 2022. His trip comes even as Ukraine is slowly but surely losing ground in the war. It faces growing uncertainty about the level of support it will get from the West. Moscow and Kiev briefly held peace talks in the spring of 2022, but it quickly broke down. For China, hosting Dmitry Kuleba and the Ukrainians reflects the country's ambition to play a bigger role in global security challenges. It wants to be the counterweight to the United States. It also serves to rebut Western criticism of Beijing's close alignment with Russia. Russian President Vladimir Putin's ceasefire conditions, which include that Ukraine give up at least 4 frontline regions or oblasts, which Russia now partly controls, and also that Kiev pledges to never join the NATO military alliance. These are non-starters for Ukraine. It leaves little room for negotiations. Ukraine, for its part, wants to regain full control of all the territory it lost to Russia and to join NATO, both of which are anathema to Moscow. China's previous attempt to mediate between Russia and Ukraine with a 12-point plan that it put forth in 2023 was quickly dismissed by European leaders. It was a non-starter. Beijing had since given up on a public role in the war, declining to participate in any United Nations votes against Russia or even a peace summit in Switzerland last month because Russia was not invited. That summit eventually failed to rally support from regional powers like India and Saudi Arabia. Beijing may now be calculating that the time is right to step in, partly based on the belief that Ukraine may be more realistic about how the war might end. In Kiev, there has been a growing understanding that peace talks without China's participation will not be meaningful. China is in a unique position to mediate because its top leader Xi Jinping has a very good personal relationship with Vladimir Putin. In fact, the two of them have met multiple times even after this war began. Beijing also has economic leverage over Moscow, but how much of it will bring to bear is something that remains to be seen. And whether at all of this leverage will actually end this war.